Hey, it's me again, GERO 508. All right, still July 13th, 2025. But we're now going to do the second module for this week, and that is psychoneuroimmunology. So that's a bridging of psychology, okay, where we monitor your levels of depression and levels of stress, okay. We look at the neuroscience components of it and how that then influences immune function. So it's actually a really, really cool area because inflammation underlies so many diseases, as we'll see. All the autoimmune diseases are chronic inflammatory diseases. So if we can figure out a way to modulate our overall well-being and our nervous system activity, maybe we can reduce that. Okay. What else is an inflammatory disease? Maybe of the brain, Parkinson's, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, on and on and on and on. Okay. All righty. So that's where we're at with today. So I'm just going to go straight into the content. You already realized that. Okay. Paper's due tomorrow. Okay. You have the exam coming up on the 21st. Okay. So almost a week away, 8 days away. So you're just going to pencil that in. All right. Awesome. All right. Don't forget when you do the discussions, you do a response to the primary prompt, and then you comment on three of your classmates to get full credit. There's always a quiz associated with it, and you could always open a second window and have that quiz open while you're going through the module. All right. Sound fair? I think it's fair. All right. So when we look at this particular module, okay, I'm going to be at the very end of it, we're going to be going over this very key feature, okay? And it's wait a minute, that's last week's module. I mean that's the stress kidney disease module. Let's keep going here. Let's go to the next one. All right, cool. That's what you're doing on your previous discussion, all right? For this one, sorry, there it is. Okay, we're going to look at the nervous system and hormones and immune system and how they all interact. Okay, as my little prelude said. All right. Okay, so and down here, I want you to refer back to the Cousins Center at UCLA, one of the really great psychoneuroimmunology clinical centers in our country over at UCLA. We're going to consider the different components of the immune system. We talked on and on and on about the adrenaline rush, okay? We talked about the fight or flight response, okay, of stress. Talked about the cortisol component to that, okay? And then we're going to reflect a little bit more on the rest and digest system, the colon system. It's been shown in a lot of disease conditions that vagal nerve stimulation for example, clinical depression can be really, really a good thing. Okay. And we're going to look at vagal nerve activation and stimulation with respect to inflammation. Okay. All right. So that's where we want you to digest all this and discuss that in your discussion. All right. All right. So let's go into the readings. Okay. So I give you a good overview here. I've written up the text just to kind of remind you where we're at. All right. So we talk about the nervous system function. Okay. There are these pathways. Okay. That regulate our body's function. Okay. So the mind-body connection, all right? And these pathways, science had to give them a funky name called the autonomic nervous system. I like to call them the automatic nervous system, all right? So this autonomic nervous system, okay, it's, as you see here, I call it correctly here. So it's the peripheral autonomic nervous system. What it refers to is the yin and yang, okay? It's turning things on and off depending on whether or not you're stressed out or whether or not you're resting, okay? And these are the direct wiring pathways that are immediate. Okay, they're not the hormonal pathway, which is down here when we talk about this right here, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis or the cortisol system. All right. All right. So that's what we're talking to you about right now. We know the stress system. Okay, the fast one that I just talked about. So the nervous system, fast one. Okay, and then we have the slower hormonal one. Okay, they're both here to protect us, okay? During anger, during fear, okay? Fight or flight. But they also, okay, both modulate the immune system. So, all right, and that's important to understand. Okay, over the long term, we don't need an immune system if we're being chased by a lion. Okay, but what we can have a problem with is we can have too much immune suppression that then later on can result into, because you're not protecting yourself, things get out of hand, and then inflammation ensues. Okay, alrighty. Okay, we're going to talk about the interaction. Okay, that adrenaline. Okay, and noradrenaline, epinephrine, and norepinephrine in the U.S. Okay, and how they influence the release of what are called inflammatory cytokines. Cyto meaning cell and kine meaning messenger, released by the immune system that really causes just beyond exponential, super exponential activation of the immune system. Okay. So that's how it works. And the nervous system works with the immune system to increase the immune system activation through these cytokines. Okay. Alrighty. Hi, Lucy. Come over here. Come here. Come here. All right. She's not going to come. That's one way to reduce your stress. We'll get into it. We'll talk about pet therapy. She's kind of an obnoxious pet right now. She doesn't want to have anything to come here. No, there she goes. She just lumbers around the house. It's a big one. Okay, so there are other ways. Okay, so we have pain pathways. Something that, as I indicated last lecture, I'm experiencing right now. I'm having really, I had so many sports injuries, and I had a really bad sports injury to my back when I was 35. And it's degenerated. I've had all kinds of treatments that didn't really kept it at bay, but right now it's not doing great. So I have a lot of stress, okay? Because these pain pathways also activate the stress response in my hypothalamus, all right? Alrighty. So the good news, okay, is if we can activate the good part of the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetic, okay, or the cholinergic system that releases acetylcholine, it opposes the action of adrenaline, and we actually will see a reduction in inflammation. Actually, cell messengers are released by the immune system saying, okay, we can slow our will. All right? All right. Very cool. All right. So this is right here. Gives you kind of some perspective on psychoneuroimmunology from Healthline. We have I've copied it just in case the link doesn't work. I think the link's working. All right, there's the link right here. Okay. And it defines what psychoneuroimmunology is. And it talks about, the interactions between the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system, and the immune system. Okay. And in doing so, it talks about, the newest research. It talks about the effect of stress. Okay. It talks about, okay, these immune system messengers. We have messengers between the nervous system, and now we have immune system messengers. Okay. And it talks about the release of these messengers called pro-inflammatory cytokines in response to an infection or an injury. That's what we want. We wanted a lot of cytokines released when we had COVID, because we wanted the immune system then to come marshaling down there and get rid of COVID, right? So that's why you have a fever and you feel like crap, because the immune system is super pro-inflammatory. Okay. Same thing if you sprain an ankle, you got to send the immune system down there, and it's got to clean out all the injured cells and repair everything, promote repair, and then it disappears. Okay. So this is what's happening right here. All right. So here's a few recent articles about psychoneuroimmunology in the medical community. Okay. And so you got to remember when this article was written. Okay. So it was written a few years ago. So this is recent. Okay. But it's really kind of cool. And then it talks about some examples of disease conditions where psychoneuroimmunology is implicated. So we have this autoimmune disease called psoriasis. Okay. And it's due to release of cytokines by the immune system. Okay. In the skin. Okay. And we see that psychological stressors may worsen or trigger episodes of this autoimmune condition, which is true of a lot of autoimmune conditions. Okay. Cancer right here. Okay. Again, shows a relationship. coronary artery disease, a relationship. And so, whoops, sorry, they want us to write something. Here's the bottom line. Okay, so that's what this article is all about. So you read up on that. Okay, friend? Oh, hers. The one thing about my Word file is you avoid all these commercials. Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, so we've gone through all that. Okay, all right, so then I review the immune system function. Okay, kine means messenger, cyto means cell, and lymph means lymph. So we will see also oftentimes lymphokine, and that's a lymphocyte, specific type of immune system cell called a B cell or a T cell that releases messengers. We can one quick readout is of are we under inflammation? It's a very cheap readout because it's been done forever. Is to look at your you have your you look at your whole blood cell, okay, analysis, okay, and then you look at your white blood cell count, and if you have a lot of white blood cells, they undergo cell division. The lymphocytes do when you are sick, okay, and so that's a good way to know is your system activated, okay. There are now ways to measure cytokines and lymphokines as well. All right. So that's just kind of a quick review, okay. Chronic inflammation, okay, is implicated in a lot of diseases of the brain: amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, and stroke. Okay, and then we have all the autoimmune diseases. So you can see there's a lot of problems. All kidney disease, anywhere you have atherosclerosis and diabetes, again, it's activated in a chronic way. All right. So you can go in here, and then we'll look at Sapolsky's overview of primates, and specifically, he's back in there looking at the social hierarchy. Okay, he reviews somebody else's paper, and lo and behold, when you're low in the social hierarchy, you have high levels of major pro-stimulating inflammation cytokines. All right. So this one is heavy in detail. Okay. So I don't want you to get caught up into it. I just want you to try and get as much big picture out of this. Okay. So the abstract is perfect. It tells you why we use inflammation. Okay. If you have a deficiency in your inflammatory response, it's much more likely to cause disease and death. Okay. There was a discovery that we have these cholinergic neurons, the ones during rest and digest, that actually that will reduce acute inflammation. Okay. And it really expanded our understanding of the inflammatory response and the concept that we can then maybe use this to treat diseases. Okay, so that's what this basic concept of this article is all about. So they again review lots of diseases that are chronic inflammatory diseases we see right here, and autoimmune disease like our rheumatoid arthritis and Crohn's disease, atherosclerosis, diabetes, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, on and on and on. Okay, cerebral and myocardial ischemia, that's fancy talk for heart attacks and stroke. Okay. Alrighty. So, and going through this, then they talk about, again, the different parts of the immune system. Here's the automatic or autonomic system. Okay. Controls not only heart rate, blood pressure, but it goes into the gut, everything. So it's involved in all kinds of functions of our body. Okay. Then they get into an overview of inflammation. Probably the most infamous of the cytokines that activate the immune system is TNF alpha. And with this discovery, then companies were able to raise antibodies in high numbers, and then people that have autoimmune disease that will oftentimes be given an antibody that will actually bind to and keep TNF alpha from promoting inflammation. So this drug, the most famous one, is called Humira, and it's used to treat people that have a lot of autoimmune disease. Okay. So this goes into some of the mechanisms of that, and it talks about if you have low TNF, okay, then you are immune compromised, and you're much likely to have infections and have problems. Okay, here's the antibodies against TNF that I was talking about. Okay, and And then this talks about, again, the communication. I just want you to kind of go through that. Here's our friend, the cholinergic system that is anti-inflammatory. This kind of shows you a nice figure of the brain, okay? All right. The vagus nerve is the one that has the cholinergic activity, okay? It comes down, okay? It shows it going to the GI tract, okay? It influences the heart, influences the liver, the spleen, okay? So it has a lot of different influences, okay? One thing that they're showing down here, this is an immune system cell located, let's say, in the, as you can see here from the projection, in the intestine, okay? And when you release acetylcholine, it inhibits the production of these pro-inflammatory or this inflammation exciting, inducing chemicals. So it keeps it from going out of control. So this is an anti-inflammatory pathway. So maybe for people with autoimmune disease, we can do things to stimulate our vagus nerve, okay? Meditation, okay? Exercise, okay? Dog therapy, pet therapy, music, all these kinds of things that enhance life. As well as there's new techniques of actually stimulating the vagus nerve. They're used for clinical depression and maybe could be used for these diseases, okay? So they talk about vagus nerve stimulation that suppresses the immune system, okay? Again, by the release of acetylcholine. And then this is over here, looking on the other side, okay? And these are different types of immune system cells, okay? High levels of steroids can, in the short term, reduce inflammation, but over the long term, they can be a problem, okay? We look over here, the nervous system, we know acetylcholine reduces TNF, okay? Pain increases TNF, okay? Increases global inflammation, and the sympathetic nervous system can go both ways. Awesome. Okay. So that's the overview of that. So then we get in here, we see the concept of what we can maybe do and to use our knowledge of how the nervous system interacts with the immune system to reduce inflammatory diseases. Okay. So, biofeedback, meditation. All right. We have psychoactive anti-inflammatory agents. Okay. There are different agents that they show, like Celebrex and ibuprofen, but, even antidepressants can reduce inflammation. Okay. Vagus nerve stimulation. Okay. We see that right here. Acupuncture activates the nerves in this way. Okay. To ultimately release more acetylcholine. Okay. Drugs like nicotine patches. These are all concepts that are out there, right? Things that will reduce the inflammation of, say, joints or other parts of your body, right? And this, again, goes through the different actions. We have steroids, okay, that influence inflammation. We have acetylcholine that we said reduces it. We have right here, the sympathetic nervous system that can either reduce or activate it, okay? This is pain fibers that can make it worse. So that's the view right there, all right? Okay. Alrighty, so that's it. So that's the concept of that article. And then we come over here, and piggybacking on that then is the Sapolsky review of another article, okay? Pro-inflammatory primates, social subordination induces pro-inflammatory gene expression profiles, all right? So you're going to be in fight or flight. You're not going to have the acetylcholine working to suppress inflammation. You're just going to have the adrenaline that activates the immune system, okay? And that's basically, what is found in this article. All right, we'll go over here and boom, boom, okay? And so basically, again, looking at monkeys, again, like he did with baboons, but this particular author looked at, macaques, and so this is his overview of this work. Sapolsky's overview of the work by this group right here, okay? And they tell you about how they did the statistical analysis, made sure everything was cool. So their sample, okay? And then what they did is they stimulated the immune system from these animals. So this is a type of bacterial stimulation. Okay, that's what this lipopolysaccharide is. All bacteria have these unique proteins on their surface. And then they looked into the immune system and said, okay, if you were low on the social totem pole or high on the social hierarchy, what happened to genes that were turned on that reflect immune system function? Okay, so that's what they're going through right here. Okay, and then they come through and they were able to find that the monkeys that were very low on the social hierarchy had much markedly increased expression of the, as we see here, the pro-inflammatory pathway. So this is kind of experimental proof of concept, okay? And then they talk about, supposed to reflects back about just, hierarchies, humans and hierarchies and things like that, and how this, think of the mailroom clerk, the captain of the softball team, his analogy. So pretty cool stuff, right? Awesome. Alrighty. So what's going on over here? So this is an article that actually looks at the levels of blood cortisol, something like you guys could have done in your paper, your mock journal, and looked at the degree of inflammation. Okay. And so this is normal, and this is a person that's clinically depressed or high stressed, okay? And so what happens is a normal person will have an immediate response, and then it shuts off. Remember, we have that ability, the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, to shut the thing off, okay? But somebody that is high stress, clinically depressed, you see right here that they have, it goes much, much higher, and it takes forever to shut off. It has lots and lots of problems. So now you're in this chronic inflammatory state for a much longer period of time. Okay? All righty. What's shown right here, okay, is the level of free cortisol, okay? And cortisol initially is very pro-inflammatory, okay? Right here, this is a super high concentration like I receive with my epidural. Okay, your body does not produce that kind of concentration of free cortisol, but you can inject this level locally with a needle. Now, what do they tell you about with epidurals? They don't like to do it, okay, because it has significant health consequences long term. So they will only do that epidural once every couple of months, maybe if you're lucky, 2 to 3 months. Okay, all right. So again, here's that biphasic U kind of thing, okay, where low levels of cortisol are permissive and stimulatory. During stress, you want to be able to fight off things, okay, but high levels, not so much, okay? All righty, very cool. So from here, that's the original article if you want to access it. From here, then you can check out these 2 videos, okay? This one in particular, it's the Cousins. Go up here, right here, Institute. And so they talk about different
Because the Center
methods
is
of
very interested
intervention.
in understanding the interactions between the brain, the body, and the immune system, and the science behind that, and generating rigorous scientific evidence about the efficacy of these approaches.
So behavioral approaches to reduce activation of the immune system by stress. Okay, really cool stuff. Okay, all righty. And this is a human study. Okay, this is longer, so I encourage you to watch it, and you don't have to if you don't want to. But it's a panel discussion, and so and this particular doctor, Kavita Verhara, was looking at one aspect of stress, and that was looking at immune system function, and in particular was looking at people in nursing homes and looking at the level of stress hormones and the mind-body connection, psychoneuroimmunology.
Committee for inviting me to.
And she was looking at the number of bed sores that they had and how severe they were, and found these really, really neat correlations. All right, that's what this is all about right here. Okay, my friends, that's it. Okay. Really cool stuff, okay? I did want to alert you, okay? This is a study from Davis School of Gerontology a few years ago, okay? Where they were, again, looking at this connection between stress, accelerated aging, and immune system function, all right? And really, really cool stuff. And I encourage you to check it out if you get a chance, okay? Awesome. All right. All right. that is it. Peace. I'm looking forward to reading all your papers. All right. We'll see you next week.